And we're ready to roll.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. We will call to order the Riverside City Council meeting for Thursday, September 21st, 2023 at 6:01 PM. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Denning.
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin.
Yes.
Ms. Fry.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph. Ms. Lomatch.
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes,
Motion to excuse.
So moved. Second.
we have a motion.
Sorry.
We have a motion from Mr. Maxfield and a second from the Deputy Mayor to excuse Mr. Joseph from tonight's meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Mr. Manager, any additions or subtractions to the agenda as presented?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Maxfield and a second from Ms. Franklin to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Agenda is approved. If you would please all join us and rise to pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will move right along on our agenda. We have some boards and commission appointments to talk about and have some folks, I believe, that are visiting us this evening. So, Mr. Manager, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have several folks that have expressed interest in appointments to the Parks and Recreation Committee as well as the BZA. Customarily, it's been the city's practice to have folks introduce themselves to council at a council meeting. The intention is to accomplish that tonight for folks that were able to make it. And then after that, we will move along the agenda and council will take the conversation that occurs today under advisement in October, when we'll consider the folks that are interested and then recommend appointments next month.
All right. And is there I know we have a few folks in the crowd that are with us, and I'll just start with the first name on our agenda. Mr. Scott Skipple has an interest in Parks and Rec. Mr. Skipple, good evening. If you would please come up to the podium and maybe introduce yourself. And thank you for being here and tell us a little bit about your interest in Parks and Rec.
Okay, Scott Skipple. I have been moved here in the area in '97, have been keeping kids off the streets ever since then, mostly through Boy Scouts. I've also coached. I coached Little League and Pinewood on the East Dayton side, say soccer. I'm looking to just get a little bit more involved in my city. And I'm retired. I have a little bit of time. I would like to just see the city maximize the facilities that they do have, and just help make Riverside more of a destination city for outside recreation and for the residents, especially the kids. But
Excellent. Well, we thank you for your interest. And
Where do you live, sir?
I live right behind Seville Elementary School.
I think for full disclosure, we should point out that some of the kids he's keeping off the streets are my sons and Brenda's nephew through Troop 329 at Boy Scouts. So very grateful for that. And we're certainly appreciative that you want to step up and serve. Other questions for Mr. Skipple about Parks and Rec? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Skipple. We appreciate you having interest and thank you for being here this evening. Is Tori Santana with us this evening? All right, we'll move along. And I do not want to pronounce the last name incorrectly. Is it Caitlin Iaboskini? Is Caitlin with us? All right. We'll move into the Board of Zoning Appeals, folks that had some interest. Is Tim?
Right. The two Tims are reappointments.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, you've already.
Of course, we've met them also.
Yes.
Are either one of them with us?
I didn't-
I don't think they.
No.
they're-
All right. And then we have Thomas Lemke, who is also interested in the Board of Zoning Appeals. Mr. Lemke, please come up to the podium. Thank you for joining us this evening. And if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in BZA.
Good evening. I'm Thomas Lemke. I'm a school bus driver for Mad River Local Schools. I'm clearly all around the city every single day. So the appeal and the looks of the city mean a lot to me. So I am taking a stepping stone in the right direction to be a part of that. So I know the BZA has a small part in that, so I want to take that step to just be involved in the city and see what I can do to help make it a better looking place.
All right, great perspective to present. Any questions for Mr. Lemke this time?
Do you have an understanding of what BZA does?
I
for the
do.
City?
Me and Ms. Holt has
Okay,
talked a lot
perfect.
about it. It's a very, very introductory rate, but
Yeah, because it's kind of like the judicial part of
Yes.
the city.
absolutely.
Thank you for being a school bus driver. They're hard to come by.
Absolutely. I love doing it.
If you don't mind me asking, does your route take you to one of the grade schools, one of the middle schools, all over the place?
Every school, everywhere, all parts of the city.
Okay, great. Well, then you got your eyes on everything.
I sure do.
Okay, well,
Plus the kids.
Bringing
are-
Rob along.
well, yeah, and the road, mostly the road.
Mostly the road, I promise.
Yeah. Well, we're certainly excited that there are citizens that are interested and Mr. Lemke, we certainly appreciate your interest as well. So if there's anything else you want us to know about your interest in BZA, this would be a great time to let us know. Otherwise, we certainly appreciate you joining us this evening.
I'm just excited to get my foot in the door and see what I can do to help.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So as the city manager mentioned, we have applications for these folks. We have a few reappointments, people that have been serving for us. And the commission, or I'm sorry, the council is going to take under advisement all the information that we've been able to gather, and we hope to issue letters of appointment in October.
Correct.
Great. Well, thank you again, folks who have joined us. And then similarly, we have a opportunity to begin our CRA Housing Council appointments, and I'll turn it back over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as discussed last week at the work session, staff respectfully recommend that council make a motion to appoint the mayor and the community development director to the CRA Housing Council, and that the mayor would move to appoint as his appointees, the finance director and the economic development specialist. That will allow us to convene the housing council for its first meeting. And then at that first meeting, the housing council itself will select 2 residents at large and then can be hearing incentives and other requests.
So moved.
Second,
All right.
Question, are we appointing the position
Yes,
or are we appointing the person?
the position.
Okay, so if Naya decides that she wants to move on.
that's fine.
then whoever
Wins
takes
the
her
lottery,
spot,
I think,
then
is
whoever
the,
takes her spot because automatically goes to the CRA.
Well, yeah.
yeah, whoever,
Okay.
yes, correct. The
So we don't have
incumbent
to-
for the
We don't have to go
positions.
through this process again.
Correct.
That- I just wanted to make sure that that's the way we were doing it.
Yep.
Okay. I'm ready to vote.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to essentially accept the slate of recommendations that the city manager presented. And if there's no further discussion, did you have the second and I'm sorry, the motion?
I got Sarah for the first.
We have a motion from
Okay.
the deputy mayor and a second from Ms. Franklin to accept the slate of nominations that the city manager presented. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. And we have a presentation this evening. We have a guest from Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So if Chris is with us tonight, Chris, if you could please come to the podium, introduce yourself for the record, and thank you for taking some time.
Mayor Williams, council members, and everybody else who's here. My name is Chris Mackey. I work for Big Brothers Big Sisters Miami Valley. We're a nonprofit mentoring organization, serves around 400 youth in Miami, Montgomery, Greene, and Preble counties. Let's see if it works. There we go. So wanted to start off by talking about 2 little brothers who are currently on our wait list, Kevin and Stephen. Not their real names, by the way, but Kevin is an 11-year-old little brother who is interested in coding. He's interested in esports, and his career goal is to own a bakery. He wants to own his own bakery. And a big brother for this young man could help him participate in fun, safe activities while helping him realize his goal of owning his own bakery. We also have Stephen on our wait list. Stephen is a 9-year-old little brother. He's interested in Legos, loves Legos, puzzles, going on hikes. And a big brother could help Stephen with expressing himself better, building self-confidence. These are just 2 young men who are on our wait list right now. And I'm here to provide the opportunity of everyone here to be a mentor for a young person in our community. So Big Brothers Big Sisters creates and supports, I'll just say, next slide, please. Big Brothers Big Sisters creates and supports one-to-one mentoring relationships that ignite the power and the promise of youth. And at Big Brothers Big Sisters, our vision, and I love our vision, is that all youth achieve their full potential. We want kids to be successful in life. We go about doing that, next slide, please, through two primary programs. The one I'm going to talk about tonight is our community-based program. And in that community-based program, mentors and mentees, or bigs and littles as we call them, do fun, safe, inexpensive activities, going to the park, playing basketball, getting some ice cream, playing a board game, while focusing on goals. Those goals can be as simple as introducing the little to a new hobby and as profound as helping the little graduate high school. Focus on career goals, focus on life goals. Next slide, please. And actually, I skipped ahead, but it's all right. And as far as the mentors and mentees in our program, they, as I might have already mentioned this, but they do those fun, safe, inexpensive activities while focusing on those goals. I did just do that. So as far as the littles in our program, they're kids in our 4-county service area. So Greene, Miami, Montgomery, and Preble. They're kids ages 7 to 14. When we match them, they go up to age 18. When they turn 18, they graduate from the program. They're kids who want to have a mentor and whose parents or guardians want them to have a mentor. And they're kids who come from a variety of backgrounds and experiences. Some of the kids in our program are, for example, part of a large family. And the parents or guardians of that little feel that having an additional positive one-to-one mentor would be beneficial for that child. And then some kids have been through a lot in their young lives. Based on, and this will be a couple point and clicks through this, based on some data of kids on our wait list, 63% come from households that make less than $30,000 a year. 14% of these kids on our wait list have or had an incarcerated parent. 55% of these kids are dealing with some type of a traumatic experience they've gone through in their life. 37% are dealing with some type of a mental health issue. And 14% come from military families. So we're especially looking for folks who can step up to mentor a kid in a military family. As far as bigs go, bigs are first and foremost safe. Youth safety is the absolute priority of Big Brothers Big Sisters. Bigs are consistent. We ask for a year commitment from bigs, and we ask for that commitment because, first of all, it takes time to build that mentoring relationship. We also ask for that commitment because some of the kids in our program, not all, but some, have had adults come in and out of their lives. Bigs are safe. They're not judgmental when they're dealing with their littles. And what bigs are not? Bigs are not replacement parents or guardians. They're not saviors. We're not trying to save these kids from themselves, save these kids from their home environments. In fact, the best mentoring matches work out when bigs and parents and guardians are on the same page about how the mentorship goes. And bigs don't have to have an advanced degree in social work to be a licensed therapist. We want people like that. But bigs are members of the community who want to make a difference in the life of a young person. Next slide. As far as the enrollment process, we do have an enrollment process to make sure that everybody's a good fit for Big Brothers Big Sisters. We do applications, we do background checks, reference checks for bigs. We have interviews, we do some online training, and then we match bigs and littles based on similar interests, similar personalities, similar geography. Next slide, please. And those bigs and littles, as I mentioned, do those fun, safe, inexpensive activities. I mention inexpensive because we don't want this to be a financial burden for bigs or littles. They focus on goals. They can be simple goals. They can be really profound goals. And bigs and littles are engaged in one-to-one mentoring matches that last for at least a year. Next slide, please. As far as the benefits of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and this comes from national data, 46% of littles said they avoided drugs as a result of having a mentor. 90% said that they got better grades as the result of having a mentor. And 86% said that they had reduced depressive symptoms as a result of having a mentor. I point to this last stat because in light of the pandemic and a lot of the mental health issues that a lot of kids are dealing with, having that additional person in their corner, that additional support can be really beneficial for that child. And then as a former big brother and currently a school-based mentor, I can attest to the fact that it's a benefit to be a mentor. It's a very rewarding opportunity to get out into the community and to make a difference in the life of a young person. Next slide, please. So we currently have 49 kids on the Big Brothers Big Sisters wait list. That does include Kevin and Stephen. But it takes about an hour a week. It's 2 meeting times a month to make a difference in the life of a young person. And so I ask that everyone here considers becoming a part of Big Brothers Big Sisters. And if you don't have the time or the interest in being a big, that's fine. Please share this information with folks that you know, friends, family, coworkers, because we really need people in the community to step up, make a difference in the life of a young person. Because these kids have a lot of potential. The kids that I mentioned, the other kids on our wait list, have the potential to be successful in life. And at Big Brothers Big Sisters, we defend that potential. Thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions that you have. Yes.
Say I have 6 hours a month. Can I mentor 3?
Three youth. So what we try and do with mentors is that it's just one mentor with one mentee. And so we
No. 3, if I would, it would be one-on-one with each one. But if you have the time, some of us are retired or considering retiring, and I'm just asking, is it just, you only get one? Or is it possible to, as long as we kept them separate, it's their time, can you do more than one?
So that's a conversation that we could have during that interview.
So not normally.
Not normally.
Okay.
No,
that's-
sir.
That's a
You-
reasonable. answer.
for a
I
variety of
was-
reasons.
I trust me, I don't have the time for anything more, but I was just thinking that there are people that might be able to. And they might be willing to, and as long as the ground rules were set up properly. Could do, and if they're a good mentor for one, they would be good mentors for a lot,
Absolutely. And we welcome people in the community to give for a variety of reasons. One of them is youth safety, other reasons as well. We try and have it be one mentor with one mentee and not have a mentor be a mentor for multiple youth. However, that is definitely a discussion that can be had during that application process.
Thank you.
Yes.
The name of the organization implies you were looking for young adults. Is there an age range that you would prefer, or is it really open to all adults?
It's actually something I didn't mention. So in our program, if I didn't mention it, youth are typically age 7 to 14. I think I did mention that. For the mentors, it's age 21 and up. Anybody in the community 21 and up who wants to be a mentor can be a mentor for a young person.
Thank you.
It's a lot easier to be a grandpa.
I have to applaud you too, because you didn't mention that if you can't give time, you can give money.
We're always looking for money, but
I'm familiar with the program. That's why I'm saying you didn't mention that, and hats off to you. But if you don't have time, you can always give money to Big Brothers Big Sisters.
absolutely. And we're always looking as well for other people who want to give in other ways. We have a number of advisory councils that we're working on to focus on, for example, military youth who are dealing with mental health issues. But the primary ask tonight is for mentors for those 49 kids on our wait list.
Wonderful. Well, if there's no further questions, we certainly thank you for visiting us this evening. We thank you for this information. And I think this is a great message that we can help spread. And I hope that other folks in the room will do the same thing.
Thank you all very much. And I am going to leave flyers and business cards at the very back. And so if anybody's interested in learning more, they can definitely take one of those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Well, I think we've all had a chance to read the meeting minutes from the August 10th and the August 17th meetings, the August 10th work session, the August 17th council meeting.
Move to approve.
We have a motion from Ms. Franklin, and I'll call a second for Mr. Denning to approve the meeting minutes as published. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. If there are any citizens joining us this evening who wish to petition the council, there are forms in the back that you can fill out. You can bring them right up to either the clerk or to any one of us, and we will have portions of the agenda where we have inputs on agenda or non-agenda items. We also have a second reading of an ordinance tonight, which will have a public hearing included. So we'll move right into department updates, and I'll turn it back over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and we'll excuse actually each of the directors for a variety of reasons from a report out tonight.
There's nobody over there.
Yeah, I know. But no, that gets to a little bit of what we talked about last week. But at any rate, I do have a couple of bullet points that I can share. I'll kind of tackle everything just under a brief city manager report. The first is that one of those seats should be filled in early October. So Chief Miller we're anticipating that we'll have a swearing in ceremony at the October 5th meeting. If for any reason that should change, of course, we'll let everybody know, but very excited to have him aboard here coming up very shortly. We did get an updated agreement from the Montgomery County TID regarding our Safe Streets for All grant. That's the big one that looks at the whole corridor on Woodman from Springfield down to 35. They have recommended revising the scope of work that we had worked out with them for just this phase 4 piece to accommodate the entirety of that SS4A grant. That revised scope will be before you in October as well. Their board has already approved the change to the scope. The Springfield Street project just out our doors here is complete, aside from a few punch list items that need to be checked off. So we're all very excited about that, and it, I think, ties the entire corridor together very well. And it is night and day compared to just a couple of years ago when you were trying to get to the Air Force Museum. And many thanks, honestly, to Ms. Bartlett and to all the engineers and our finance staff and everybody that has a hand in that work. And Kevin and all of the crews that actually are out there, grinding the pavement and painting the stripes. So we don't get it done without a team effort. We do have a few maintenance worker positions still open. If anybody out there watching is interested in working for the Public Service Department, we are accepting applications. We actually have a number of positions that are open currently. I know Ms. Holt is eager to have a zoning administrator as well. So please feel free to check out our careers page. Our audit, knock on wood, should be complete by the end of the month, and I'll be meeting with the finance team and the auditors here in the next couple of weeks to continue wrapping that up. We have started the operational budget components of ClearGov. And the final thing I have is just a quick note. I'm actually presenting at the International City County Manager Association Conference in early October. Was invited to be on a panel to discuss how small communities, go about budgeting. So as you all know, it's a subject that's near and dear to my heart. So I'm looking forward to participating in that, and I can give you a report out at the October meeting about how that went.
It's 2 words, very careful.
That's amen. That's it. So, and that's all I have, unless you have questions.
Questions for the city manager? All right, we will zoom right along. There was no one who turned in a slip for public comment on agenda items. So we will move into unfinished business. We have one ordinance to consider, which will be the second reading, public hearing and potential adoption for ordinance 23-0-838. We have a motion from Ms. Lomaj, the deputy mayor, and a second from Ms. Franklin. You would be me in that equation. So at this time, I would ask the clerk to read the ordinance by title only.
Ordinance 23-0-838, an ordinance approving a change in the district boundaries as shown on the zoning map of the city of Riverside, Ohio, for parcel ID number I-39-00115-0014, 0015, I-39-00115-0023, 0024, I-39-00116-0013, and 0014 from R3 Medium Density Residential District to B2 General Business District.
I will now open the public hearing for ordinance 23-0-838 at 6:25 PM. Anyone who wishes to speak on this ordinance Please come to the podium, give your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing no one come forward, we will close the public hearing for ordinance 23-0-838 at 6:26 PM. Is there any further discussion from members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. We will move into new business. New business is an ordinance which we will have the first reading only for. This is ordinance 23-0-839. And Mr. Manager, could you please just give a quick update on what this is we're considering?
This is our third quarter supplemental appropriations ordinance that allows us to anticipate receiving monies for grants so that we can pay and then be reimbursed for those grants and appropriate some funds for other miscellaneous expenses as described in the packet.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Denning and a second from Mr. Maxfield. City Charter allows for the first reading of an ordinance to be read by title only unless a council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, would you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 23-0-839, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Riverside, state of Ohio for the period of January 1 through December 31st, 2023.
Is there any further discussion from members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. We now have a number of resolutions to consider, and as we go through each one, I will bounce pass it back to the city manager for a quick synopsis, and then we will move on with our voting. So the first one, resolution 23-R-2870, Mr. Manager.
So this is it made, I think, the Dayton Daily News at least last week or the week before that we were awarded a $500,000 grant from the Highway Safety Improvement Program that will contribute that money for the Woodman Phase 1 project. This resolution authorizes us to accept that grant and to sign any documents needed to process the grant.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from the deputy mayor and a second from Ms. Franklin. All those in favor of resolution 23-R-2870 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. The next resolution, Mr. Manager.
The next resolution is authorizes a renewal of the lease agreement with Mad River Pee Wee Football for the football arrangements at Community Park. The main substantive changes to this agreement are that the association will pay for additional electricity costs. And the agreement also contains an additional appendix, which provides a little bit more guidance and clarity about the parking situation and how to do a little bit of crowd control. Those are the major changes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Denning and a second for Ms. Franklin. All those in favor of resolution 23-R-2871 signify by saying, is there any discussion about this resolution?
Well, can I just clarify within this? There's nothing about access roads or anything like that within this agreement. This is just a general renewal agreement, correct?
That's correct. It
I think
does
there was some
not,
confusion last week, and I just want to clarify, we're not taking any roads or anything like that away from the Pee Wee Football Association.
no,
Or any park property at all?
Yes.
no.
So everything that
There
was in place.
clarity on their media clarifying where you can and can't park for safety reasons.
Yes, but there was confusion thinking that we were taking roads and stuff
Okay,
away, and
right.
yeah,
No,
But I
no.
did understand that that was reasonable, what they were suggesting,
yes.
where not to park to allow emergency vehicles should they be needed.
Yes, no boundaries of parks or roads are changing as of, as a subject of this agreement or otherwise. So
So if there's any further discussion, we could continue or we could vote. I think that I certainly applaud the staff and the city manager for making this making a very clear presentation last week on what it was we were considering, what it was we're voting on, and the asset that the park is to the community today and will continue to be. So all those in favor of resolution 23-R-2871 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And the next resolution, Mr. Manager.
the next resolution, I'm very excited to present to you all. This resolution will confirm the appointment of Ms. Kim Baker as our next finance director and tax administrator for the city. Kim, as you know, joined us several months ago, and I would say has already made a transformative impact on how we do finance here. And I'm really looking forward to what she'll do for us in the coming months and years. And I appreciate all the work that she's done for us so far. So I enthusiastically recommend that you approve this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Denning and a second from Ms. Franklin. Before we vote, speech. Kim, say a few words.
I didn't prepare a speech, so.
I never
and-
prepare remarks.
I know, but you're good at talking.
Thank you. Is that in the minutes?
She just did it numbers.
If Kim says it, it must be true. No, I've enjoyed my time here, 6 months in, and we have definitely made a little bit of progress, hoping to make a bigger impact. That's the goal, but I appreciate everything that people do here, and I do really like being here at the city of Riverside.
We love having you here. Seriously. It's been a-
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And we do need to, at this time, also say how much we have appreciated Tom
Yes, absolutely.
in his 30 years.
Speech.
So,
Thank you.
We'll miss you, Tom.
yes, he's done a heck of a job carrying us over through the hard times and the good times and
We've had a lot of,
good times and hard times.
Interesting moments.
that we have.
But you will be missed, and we do appreciate everything you've done for our city and for our citizens.
Thank you. Of course, I second, we've got good hands now. So
All right, well, let's vote. Let's get Kim in place. All those in favor of resolution 23-R-2872 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Congratulations, Kim. And the next resolution, Mr. Manager.
One of the things that we are trying to be more deliberate about is to come to council when we are in the middle of procurements that have to follow specific processes. One of those processes is called a then and now. It's a situation in which we have moved forward with a purchase, but haven't dotted every I or crossed every T necessarily on the legislative approval for pieces of that. So this happens sometimes. It's common, I would say, in local governments where either somebody gets ahead of something or a scope changes and it triggers the need for legislative action where there wasn't one before. And so this is a mechanism that cities use to clean that up. And it's something that you'll see in every city, all across the state, all across the country. But we want to be more deliberate about bringing those to you when they happen. A good example is the resolution that's before you here today. When back, you'll all recall the project to do the flock cameras, the flock camera installations. That was grant funded entirely as far as the camera component was concerned. As the project unfolded, though, we determined that it would be more effective to power those cameras with a direct power source. That cost was about $8,000, $7,600 or so. But properly speaking, we should have you approve that because it's an addition to the original expense. So this is a resolution where we're basically asking you to approve the decision that we made to go ahead and run that power so that we can pay the vendor those fees.
second,
We have a motion from Mrs. Franklin and a second from Mr. Denning. Any further discussion? All those in favor of resolution 23-R-2873 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And the next resolution, Mr. Manager.
This is another bit of housekeeping. When Ms. Baker becomes the finance director officially at the end of the month, beginning of October, we have to change signatories on bank accounts and who are authorized signers and who are not. Fifth Third Bank requires council to approve both Kim and myself as signers on those accounts. And so this is just a housekeeping formality where you say you don't object if we sign checks and all the rest.
We needed the music to start playing.
I know, right? Okay,
We have a motion from Mr. Denning and a second from Ms. Franklin, and the orchestra started playing to wrap up his acceptance speech. All those in favor of whatever Josh was talking, resolution 23-R-2874 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Great. And then the final resolution, very briefly, Mr. Manager.
Very briefly, another then and now, and I'll actually turn it over to Ms. Holt. If there's anything, this is related to modules that we purchased for iWorks, which handles our permitting, online permitting process.
Talk.
Nope, they just need to be paid.
Okay. We have a motion.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Dang, a second from Mr. Maxfield. All those in favor of resolution 23-R-2875 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. And those, the end of our resolutions. We have public comment for non-agenda items, and we do have a few folks who have asked to speak tonight. And at this time, I would ask is if Joyce Sun is with us, if Joyce could come to the podium. Thank you for taking some time with us this evening. And if you could please give your name and address for the record. And please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you and welcome.
You. My name is Joyce Sun. I live at 2388 Meadow Green Drive, Dayton, Ohio. Thanks for having me. I am a dentist. I'm one of the 2 dentists practicing at Brilliant Smiles in Riverside, which is right at the corner of Spinning and Burkhart. Ever since we heard from our UPS driver that the projected business at the old family video is to be a methadone clinic, we have been watching with dreaded anticipation the renovations taking place outside our windows. Traditionally, dentists have been known to have access to opioid medications, and once upon a time, we would commonly prescribe them to patients after a tooth extraction. Long gone are those days, but undoubtedly the public perception may not be up to date. We serve a wide range of patients, many of whom are honest, upstanding citizens who have been coming to this location for decades for their dental needs. We also serve a large population of military families, and every year we welcome them, adults, children alike, into our practice in hopes that they will they'll have found a dental home right in their own neighborhood. So as I'm sure you're well aware, having this drug treatment clinic at this Spinning and Burkhart location means, at least to a lot of us, it means there will be an increase of crime, litter, and police reports in the area. We're only a stone's throw away from 5 schools, 2 preschools, a daycare center. While we understand the opioid crisis, it needs urgent attention, and we applaud those both trying to help as well as those who need help and are reaching out for help. We do not feel this particular location is the right one for such a clinic. As a team, a dental team, we're preparing for these changes by installing an alarm system, putting up clear signage, no opioids, buddy system, but we probably won't be able to eat outside or take a walk around the block as comfortably as we used to. The business may end up closing if patients decide they're not comfortable visiting the area, or if staff members don't feel safe at work. As adults, we can attempt to defend ourselves and even find another job elsewhere should the need arise. These children, however, are some of the most vulnerable and helpless members of our society. And to put them at high risk each and every day by allowing this clinic to be constructed on their path to school, it's unacceptable. I understand your hands are tied with this situation, and I just have a few questions. Are there any steps we can take to protect the community for these changes? Is the police force able to be strengthened at all? Does Brightview seem to be cooperating in helping us keep the area safe? I appreciate your time. That's just what I had to say. And I also have a form in case anybody wanted to keep in touch as we observe what happens the next few months.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sun. I believe the next speaker is asked to talk about the same topic, and I would probably ask the city manager and city law attorney, our city law director, to weigh in on a few of the questions that have been asked. So if that's okay with everyone. All right, next we have Ellen Fletcher. Ms. Fletcher, thank you for joining us this evening. If you could give your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. We thank you for taking some time to join us this evening.
You're welcome.
And please try to speak right into the microphone. It helps the people listening.
Okay, is that good?
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Fletcher and I live at 5201 Huberville Avenue. We're looking forward We've heard about a tour that Brightview will give. 30-minute presentation, September 28th at the Centerville Brightview location offered by the Drug Rehabilitation Facility. Mayor and council, thank you for giving the time to present our thoughts and feelings tonight. It will be a good idea if we come back in March of 2024 as a collective group to present an update of community reaction. I am sure all involved understands the intensity of the unknown for this family residential area of Riverside. Within 0.2 of a mile of this site of concern, as has been stated, we have 2 schools on Spinning Avenue, 2 schools on Burkhart Kemp Avenue, 2 standalone preschools, but 5 preschools within those other schools represented. And then last but not least, Brilliant Smiles, that we would like as a community to remain brilliant. We understand legally there is nothing to say, but morally and ethically, we stand as one on behalf of the homes, the educational facilities, and fellow businesses. I'm sure we all agree. Support, safety, and environment is what Riverside cares about. Again, thank you and see you in March of 2024. A small postscript. In 2016, Montgomery County was named the overdose capital of the United States of America. There is a need for this service. When asking Google, the Dayton area has 21 treatment resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fletcher. I'll just start and then I'll hand off to the city manager. And I think the law director would also probably want to chime in on some of the things that were mentioned about the legal aspects of this zoning occupancy permit. And I would invite any of the council members that want to share anything. As was stated by Dr. Sun and Ms. Fletcher, the permitted uses for the location in question are all being met by the applicant. And because of that, the city is completely barred from doing anything to stop this proposed use from moving in, just as we would be barred from stopping Dr. Sun from moving across the street if she wanted to expand the dental practice. We can't pick and choose who we want to move into a location based on characteristics that are being described by some of our speakers. And when I hear morally and ethically being mentioned, I don't know that morally, ethically, or legally we ever want to venture into a territory where we want to start excluding those people for any reason that might be personal in belief or what I might think versus what Sarah might think versus what Brenda might think. The same law applies to everybody, and the rules that Brightview had to follow for the I guess the northwest corner of Spinning is the same rules that Dr. Sun has to follow for the southwest corner of Spinning. I'll ask the city manager and the law director if there's anything that I needed to add.
No, just I think that, you know, as we mentioned I mentioned in a letter that I wrote to
Maritime.
Thank you.
One of the daycares that was referenced.
Correct. Who also expressed very similar concerns. You know, I think I certainly live very close to there, and I understand obviously, you know, the concerns that folks have. We all are collectively kind of obviously make up the community, and you know, at the same time, I think the bind that the city is in, I think as the mayor correctly described, is that when a proposed use meets the zoning, the city has no legal authority to intervene in that. Having said that, you know, that establishment, like every other establishment in the city, has to abide by all the other codes and ordinances, whether those are noise ordinances, nuisance ordinances, littering, property maintenance, public disturbance kinds of ordinances. So, and I think we have a proven track record, especially in that area, in that corridor, of intervening when it's necessary to enforce those ordinances. You know, and we do that as fairly and consistently as possible. So I want to be clear, the city doesn't target businesses. We enforce the code as equitably as we can. regardless of the business or the occupant. And that's not something we're going to stop doing. We'll continue to enforce the code as equitably as we can going forward. Certainly, I know the police department is aware, just because of prior occupants in other parts near that shopping center. They're aware of things that have happened in that area, just as they are in other parts of town, and they continue to keep an eye on activities there and throughout the community to try to keep folks safe. So we will do everything in our power to continue to fairly and consistently enforce the codes that are on our books. I do want to just quickly mention, though, that one of the steps that we intend to take going forward that impacts the entire community is, we council just adopted a revised comprehensive land use plan that talks about ways to potentially rezone property parcels, different visions for this area in particular, as well as the Springfield area and areas up north. And we're well equipped to start a process of looking at a comprehensive zoning code rewrite. I think we intend to do that next year and to kick that off, and to keep the ball rolling on our economic development efforts more globally, so that we're better equipped to, advance that community vision and to try to attract bigger and other kinds of development opportunities, not just to that corner or to that side of town, but to this area of kind of our downtown area, as well as redevelopment opportunities up north as well. So we're working a number of fronts to try to advance that community vision. And I'll, I guess, defer to the law director if I've.
If
spoken
there's
out of
anything,
turn.
Dom, that we didn't cover that you want to make sure that the citizens knew about this process.
Just validate what both of you have stated, which is essentially the city's role is to enforce the law and apply it equally and not have it be influenced by subjective views with regard to ethics, morality, desirability, aesthetics, any of those things. And that if, I don't know the specifics of this case, but I know the general tone, the general ramifications, and it appears to me that it is very likely that if the city in any way targeted that business or treated it differently than other businesses, that it would have liability under various federal laws, including the Constitution. There's protection under the Fair Housing Act, and there are protections under the American Disabilities Act.
14th Amendments,
And there's
not
also
to mention the
that-
14th Amendment,
that
which has been
there's-
around for 150 years.
Only, right. So you've accurately stated it. And the city, again, is aware of concerns, and that's why we have a property maintenance department, and that's why we have a police department and a fire department. And certainly our city manager will make sure they do their jobs and protect the community.
Yeah, I believe the deputy mayor and Brenda wanted to also add a few thoughts.
Yeah, I just wanted to encourage people here and those listening to us out there. Please call. They're 233-1801. And there's an emergency and a non-emergency number. So you don't have to call dispatch so they send somebody immediately. But there is a non-emergency number that you can hit on 233-1801. And if you have some concerns as neighbors or whatever, if you're driving down the street, you have issues with that, please call and make us aware, because we cannot watch what's going on if you don't tell us what's going on. So I'd encourage you to, if you have concerns and things that they process and they open, then please use that phone line to keep us up so we know what we're looking for. And thank you for coming and sharing with us. We all have that concern. It's my neighborhood as well. So just let us know at that number, 233-1801. Thank you.
Brenda.
I didn't have anything. I think you've said it all very eloquently.
Okay, well, thank you.
I will say, if you see something,
Say something.
say something. It's that simple. We don't live there. We're not across the street from it. And we can't know everything that's going on. So, and if you see something, say something. It may be improper, it may not, but at least it helps us in the long term. We can keep a list of the stuff. And if we ever have to go forward with anything, just like some of the other businesses in the area, we have the backup to be able to do that. So it's important that everybody watch out for each other. We all care about each other. We all care about this community. But we can't govern on the what if. We have to have the facts, and we have to have those facts to be able to take the next step if we would need to take the next step. We may not need to. So, and this is a for-profit business. So if they're in a year or so, if they're not making a profit,
They'll leave. They'll leave.
So we'll move into council member comments, and then we have an executive session that we have on the agenda. So I'll start with Mr. Maxfield.
I have nothing.
Okay, Ms. Franklin.
I would just like to, I think most of you may know, I am not running for my seat in November. That is due to, I will, over the next year, will become a non-resident of the area. So I would not be eligible, even if I did win the ticket, to stay in this seat. So I just wanted to clarify that. One of the things I do want to say is I think the 6 of you are fine, and the individual that will join me. I also want to say that I've learned so much from all of you and from all the staff members, and I've grown, and this has been a blast. And I do encourage other individuals to run. There is so much to learn. You get at least for me, I got a passion for it. And so I plan to continue my government work when I leave the area. So I just want to thank everyone.
You're not going yet.
I'm not gone yet. But I just wanted everyone to know before, people started speculating that really it's just, I can't, after a year, I won't be able to hold the seat anyway. So.
All right. Well, appreciate that. I have just saying,
That was the
appreciate
end of my comment.
appreciate you, April. She's done. She can barely.
No, but I mean, it's your comment.
It's my comment, exactly.
I have nothing.
I would say from my comments that the property we just discussed, out of all of us sitting up here, including the city manager, my house is located the closest to this parcel. My 3 sons walk home from school past this building, and my son's school is on the same street. And the most trouble we've had on that path from my house to their school was caused by a music club. A music club. Everybody loves music, right? Music is fun and safe. Well, until it isn't. So I bring that up to point out that legally we cannot just say, we know this is going to be a problem, so we're going to go ahead and not do this. And morally, we're not going to. So I completely understand where a lot of the emotions and passions on this topic come from. A few of us live very, very close. Deputy Mayor included, April included, the city manager included. But that Katie included, the clerk, she's on the other side of the street. But
I bet you I'm closer.
as the crow flies,
She's probably.
Okay,
close.
we'll gauge it out
But-
later.
But I think the larger point, though, is that with all that being said, I have a 10-year-old that walks past every day after school. It still was more in many cases, it was probably more dangerous at times when there was, depending on what musical act might have been showing up at the former occupant of one of the storefronts in the shopping center. Should we have jumped and banned all music acts in the whole city? No, we have to take it as it comes. And our guiding principles have to be the equitable placement of law on every property owner, every citizen, every resident, everybody who comes to our city. And it can't just be what I might think or what April might think, or what Jesse might think. It has to be what we all agree to. We all took an oath to the Constitution of the state of Ohio and the United States and the codified ordinances of the city of Riverside. And our doors are always open. Our phones are always on. People seem to know where to find me when they have something they want me to know. And I'm sure it's the same with everybody else here. And that's fine. But I also want people to understand that we do get this, but we also have a standard that we're held to, and it's right that we're held to that. So, so let's continue this conversation. And I'm glad that we have some citizen activity and some citizen input tonight. And I look forward to opportunities to further these discussions as questions and comments come up. On to Ms. Lomach,
I have nothing.
on to Ms. Fry,
I have nothing tonight.
on to Mr. Denning.
I do have. Haunted house opens tomorrow night. Please.
Yeah.
Support it if you choose. It will, and now the Springfield Street's done. That was one of my biggest concerns this year, that we would still be under construction, but the street looks great. I want to thank Kathy and everybody that got everything done. It looks fantastic. Now, if we can just get the colonel to open the gate now that we,
Oh, God.
now it'll make it easier for me to get to work. I don't like waiting a half hour in line to go in the National Road gate. But anyway, please come out and support your local organization. I did not get to the
Ice
Ice
Cream Social.
Was it well attended?
It was well attended. It was steady. It was mobbed, but it was very well received.
And remember that the hometown holidays this
Right.
year is moving to Stebbins High School. So there will be more room. I believe it's kind of been revamped a little bit.
There'll
Will
be
be
food
food
trucks.
trucks and music and Santa Claus and hopefully a beautiful 25-foot light tree on one of the flagpoles.
All right.
As soon as
Is that the
as soon as I
13th?
figure out how to make it work. Okay, that's all I got. Thank you
All right. And do we have a motion to go into executive
Motion.
session
for the reason.
for the reason listed on the agenda? We have a motion for Mr. Maxfield,
Second.
second for Mr. Denning. All those in, or Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Hey, sit down.
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. We are in executive session at 6:55 PM. Thank you, folks, for joining us this evening.